and every emotion began to forget. Subtly at first, then more, the diagnosis came, and with that, a heartbreak none of us were prepared for. Still, even as Alzheimer's began to take a piece of her from us, her love never left. She earned the title Mimi right around the time everything else was starting to change. She didn't get the chance to grandparent the two of you the way she dreamed. Planning out and babysitting on weekends, flying out for the first day of school. But the love was there, so big and so true, even when the words sometimes slipped away. She held you, rocked you, kissed your heads 1,000 times. She sang to you, laughed with you, lit up at the sound of your voices. In the simplest, most sacred ways, she showed up. And we will never stop telling you about how much she loved being your Mimi. Watching her fade slowly, unfairly, was the hardest thing I've ever known. It was grief in slow motion. There were still moments of clarity where her spark would return and we watched glimpses of her. The way she'd pull us along with her on her walks around the courtyard at Wellmore and continue to let out the occasional "I love you, darling," when all other words were lost, reminding us she was still in there, fighting to stay close. And now, as I read this letter to you, I feel her everywhere. In your warmth, your joy, in the way you reached for me in the quiet moments. She did not get the ending she deserved, but she left behind a legacy that will never fade. She was my mother, she is your Mimi. And through the love she gave us, through the stories we will keep telling, and through the lives we're still building in her name, she will always be with us. My sweet love, I hope that through these stories and memories, you can come to know the incredible woman your Mimi was. She gave us roots and wings, strength and softness, laughter and lessons. She is part of you in everything you do and everything you will become. And I know she's here with us, now and always, watching over you with the same fierce, endless love. I love you, my heart.
That's what it's all about right there. And that's where it started, right here. That's where that started. Jenny would be so touched to see everyone here today. She'd be crying with happiness, hearing the beautiful words spoken in her honor. When she was especially joyful, you've already heard, she would say, "You make my heart sing." It was one of her favorite things. She heard music, makes my heart sing. When she got a big hug, "You make my heart sing." When she was sharing love, "You make my heart sing." She hasn't seen you for a long time. To be here, it's just a beautiful thing. I'm convinced that she's dancing right now. Her heart full from this room. I can't thank you enough for being here. It means a lot to family and to me. We gather here not just in sorrow, but for grief, for deep gratitude for a life that blessed us beyond measure. My wife, Jenny, left an indelible mark on everyone in this room, everybody that she touched. While her absence is deeply painful, the love, laughter, and memory she gave us will always be our comfort. She was more than my wife. She was my partner, my confidant, my best friend. Our marriage was not just a commitment. It was a beautiful dance of love, mutual respect, and unwavering companionship. Her love was my sanctuary, her arms my home, her heart my heaven. And David. She was a woman of extraordinary strength, quiet courage, and boundless love. She believed in the power of dreams. the strength of kindness, and the beauty in each day. Her spirit was as vibrant as a summer day, and her heart was warm as fire in the winter. Of all her gifts, the most remarkable was her capacity to love freely, deeply, and unconditionally. Her laughter would brighten the darkest days. Her optimism was infectious. Her presence was healing. Proverbs 17:22, chapter 22, comes to mind when I was just researching how I would describe this, especially after reading what my family and friends have said about her. But it comes to mind because it says a cheerful heart is good medicine. Jenny's heart was exactly that. She made you feel heard, valued, and seen. Just being near her lifted your spirits. The way she looked at you with those bright, caring, beautiful eyes was both comforting and captivating. She faced life's joys with gratitude, its trials with grace. She loved the ocean. Many of her vacations were at the beach. Some of her happiest memories were there by the shore, watching Brittany and Kareem play, building sand castles, swimming, screaming. It was great. The sea gave her peace, inspiration, and a sense of healing. She truly believed in its power to renew. Today, I stand not just grieving the loss of my wife, but celebrating the love we share, the life we built, and the memories that will live on. Jenny, you were more than my love. You were my rock, my lighthouse, and my compass. People ask how I fell in love with Jenny and where we met, how we met. And for those of you that have heard the story numerous times, I apologize that you hear it again. Because it doesn't change. My version is always the same. It might differ from what Jenny said, but she's here and there, and I have the microphone. So I'll tell you my truth was, I got a call on a Thursday afternoon. It was from a boss that I worked in a restaurant group, and he was in California, and he said, Al, on Monday I want you to be in LA. I said, fine, for what? Well, you need to attend a seminar called SI, People Synergistically Involved. And I said, well, that sounds like mumbo jumbo, I'm not going. He said, well, if you want to work for me on Monday, you'll be there. I said, what time? So I showed up reluctantly to this big conference. There were 125 people at this conference. And they're all up here, all ready for business. And the first rules were you're going to be on time, you're going to be participating, you're going to do your homework, no drinking, no drugs, you need to be well slept. And I go, oh no, are you kidding me? And that's the way that started. So I showed up, I did everything I had to work. I had to get on things. I wanted a new car. So I went to the seminar, and I met a lot of great people there, and I learned a lot. It was really about balancing your life, and all the things that Jenny, that you think of her today, about what made her who she is, she could have taught that class by herself. And the last day of the seminar was way in the back of the room, 125 people, and we're making plans to make up for all that stuff that we couldn't do for the 4 or 5 days we were there. And so I'm talking to a group of folks, about 20 of them. We decided we're going to go to Marina Del Rey and live it up. Tonight we're going to have a really good time. So as I'm talking, I look towards the front of the room, and I see the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life, past and present and future included. And it was Jenny. And for those of you that don't know what an aura is, I had to look it up because I've been using the word for years. I said she had an aura about her. And I wasn't sure whether that was actually legitimate, but for me it was. Because when I saw her, I was drawn to her immediately. Immediately, I had to go meet this woman. So I said, I turned to my friends and I said, I'll see you tonight, I'll be there. And as I turned to go to the front, she was skedaddling out the side door. And now I'm cussing all the way down to the front door. 4 days of wasted stuff, trying to be better, look at how your life's going to be, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, this is great. I missed her. So later that night where there's Marina Del Rey and there's a bunch of tables lined up, soaking up a big margarita, looking at the boats out there, kind of licking my wound, saying, how could that be? I really wanted to meet her. About 15 or 20 minutes into this dinner, over my right shoulder, in walks 2 girls and 2 guys, and guess who one of them is? I said, God, you brought the right one. You let the right one come in. And as they started saying hello to some of the people in front of, to my right, and working their way down to me, I had to get cute and come up with something that was going to captivate her away from the date that she was on. And I was pretty quick back then. I'm not anymore, but I was going to come up with something. I don't know what it was going to be, but it was going to be very impromptu because I was into my second margarita. And she was like 2 people away from me, and the maitre d' came and grabbed them and took them to their cozy little foretop at the windows right where I was. So I did what every 3rd grader would do. I came up with a new plan. The 3rd grade plan would be, I'm going to give you a stare down. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to look. I'm going to stare. I'm not going to blink. And you're going to look at me at some point before this night's over. Well, it's really hard to do for 20 minutes. But there's no way I was going to blink. I was not going to blink. So I took toothpicks and put them under here. I'm bleeding. My eyes are bleeding. And it was a mess. But I was drinking my margarita with a long straw, so it was good. And I was across, and Jenny was kind of just enjoying everyone vibing, and she caught me. And I looked right at her. Now, here's where we differ a little bit, but I said she winked at me. I don't know. Whatever it was, I said, okay. I'm not missing it. I picked up my meal, I picked up my drink, and as I'm walking across the restaurant, you haven't heard this story? I'm walking across the restaurant with my drink, and now I'm like, what am I going to do or say when I get there? It's like, I don't know. So I got there, and the 2 girls are on this side, the 2 guys are on this side, and I'm standing in the aisle. There's no room there. It's a really cozy little situation. And but I wasn't part of it yet. And I looked at her date and I said, do you mind if I join you? Oh, I did. I'm not even kidding. And Jenny said, no, my darling, have a seat. You lose, I win. Before you know it, she shared her baby shrimp with me because she was very generous. And then the music started. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And I said, this is working out really well. So I looked at her date, who had his jaw still kind of cemented on front of me right here. He was smaller than me, by the way. I'm not stupid. It might have turned differently. I might have had a different program, but this one worked. And he didn't even react. And Jenny kind of grabbed my hand, did a hip check. We're out. We're downstairs dancing. This live music. And immediately I knew that, I mean, within a very short order, within the first or second dance of Celine Dion and Whitney Houston, I was convinced, and in my mind, like any good stalker would think, I'm going to marry this girl. I knew her for 30 minutes, but I'm going to marry her. Steve, you still you know the story. You know, we had a little argument about the accuracy of what I'm saying, but it's pretty close. So I knew, though, that she had so much to offer, and the spark and the way she listened and the way she looked at me and the things that she valued and the life that she wanted to build, I want to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that. So she was in Southern California and I was in Denver, so we did the traditional roll of quarters in the phone and making long distance calls from the road and wherever I was until her roommate, she had a roommate at the time, and her roommate just started to not let me talk to Jenny. It was like, huh? Jenny is not here. Well, where's Jenny? Well, Jenny's yachting today. I said, yachting? I know she saw that. What? She didn't know anybody here. She's yachting. Well, she's on a date. Oh, just say that. Don't tell me she's not. I call. She's in Catalina today. Catalina? I've been to California like 50 times. I've never been to Catalina. What's she doing in Catalina? She's on a date. So every 4 or 5 weeks, I would see Jenny flying out there, and I would see Jen. Love her, Roger. So I would go out there and see Jenny. And we became very, very close. And I'm in love with her for sure. She's in love with me. And I called Jane, called her roommate, and her roommate said, she's not here. And I said, that's fine. She doesn't have to be. Just tell her I'll be there Friday. She said, okay, I'll do that. I said, also, tell her to be packed. She said, well, packed for what? I said, she's moving to Denver. And she said, well, does Jenny know that? And I said, she will if you tell her. If not, I'll tell her Friday night. So I showed up. She must have told her because her bag was packed. And we took her little Datsun 240Z or whatever it was, a little orange car. I swear it was an orange car. If you remember back then. Orange car. We hopped in the car. We came to Denver. A year later, I asked her to marry me, and it was just fantastic from that point on. And the way I script. But that's okay. Obviously, during this process, it didn't take long for me to figure out how brilliant this woman was, how driven she was, how compassionate she was. And after we got married, she put her career and aspirations pretty much on hold to have 2 absolutely beautiful children. She went on to earn her counseling degree, as you heard, and graduated in top of her class, always very driven. One of the things you might not know is that when she went to class, the children were in school. She never forced children.
That's right.
That's a good word. The children were always number one. They were number one. And I don't think even knew that she was in college at the time. And she just took care of them. When I was traveling, it was really a challenge. But she remained a beacon of kindness, generosity, and love. And in the 37 years of marriage, I can honestly say I've never saw her put herself first. She just didn't. She was very giving, so kind and considerate, and to the detriment of everything that she wanted to do. It didn't matter. It was what we talked about earlier. God gave us a rare soul, Jenny, and the endless generosity of her heart. When we first moved in together in Denver, I had a group of friends that I was hanging out with, and they met Jenny, and they go, man, she's good looking. But you know what? There's something wrong. And I said, what? Nobody is that nice and friendly and smiles all the time. I said, just wait. So about a month later, they really gave her a quick career. Said, she's the real deal. She's the real deal. And it's interesting because it is hard to believe that anyone could always look like that, could always be smart, could always be upbeat, could always be loving, generous, happy, and have a good outlook. That was my wife. That was Jenny. That was your mom. You know, as a counselor, and even before that, she going to school, she wanted to better herself, better her children, better her life, just live in a better world. Before it was kind of fashionable to do that, she really was concerned, and that's the way she believed that her contribution was going to be. And as a counselor, she helped hundreds of people and specialized in couples counseling, mainly because I was her first project. And when she passed, when I passed, she knew she had it made. So, you know, I was really thrilled when she continued her practice and was just very successful in it and built a really great reputation. Through Jenny, I became really knowledgeable of what unconditional love was and what it truly meant, because I don't think I've ever felt it. At least I wasn't in a position to accept it and understand it and to know that it existed. I had heard of it. It's like, okay, that's great, but what is it? And when you get it, you know you got it, because you can almost do no wrong. And when you do wrong, she has a really gentle way of reminding you that maybe there's a different way to look at things. And then if she tries that 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times and you don't listen, then she can get really cross. That's a South African word, cross, cross, cross. So, but the love that she had for Brittany and Kareem was incredible. And when I look at Brittany and Kareem with their children, it brings me back to when you guys were really young. Your mom would walk into your room, stand up in the crib, and cry. She'd have tears streaming down her face because she loved you so much. And is that uncontrollable love? My God, what else is there? There's nothing else. And now I'm watching you, and I'm watching you, and you guys raise your children the same way. And I'm seeing them react to that the same way that you did. Jenny is truly here. She's passed that down to you. And I'm so proud of you, and Mom with me too, right? And what you both wrote is so touching, and that will last. That will be here forever. And the feelings that are generated and what I feel right now will be forever. Something on a little lighter note, anybody that knew Jenny and went out to dinner with her knew that she would always order salmon if it was on the menu. I'm getting salmon. And that salmon would come, she'd take one bite and she'd go, "This is the best salmon I've ever had." Am I right? The best one I ever had in my entire life. I don't know how it happened, but that last piece of salmon must have been spectacular. You know, talking about adventure, you know, whether she's climbing the rope ladders in South Africa, which you guys took pictures of, which I'm scared looking at the pictures, let alone doing it, or scaling the Sydney Harbor Bridge with me, and she convinced me to do it, or camping in that Coleman camper with the kids. She lived fully. Even in illness, she never lost her joy and her anticipation of what the day is going to bring and what the future would bring. And after closing your private practice, we traveled a lot, and we did what she wanted to do, and she was just adventurous right to the very end. She'd be so honored again that you were all here, and the impact that you've had on her life. Do not underestimate that. The impact of your friendships and the conversations and being there for her. Man, it's a gift. So just keep giving to each other, because she would want that, and hopefully our family can get back to you and continue to do that. She loved you beyond belief, and she was very, very generous with her compliments about you when we were growing up with friends. So it's kind of like when I was at the airport before the internet, you know, the pictures fall out of your wallet like that. That was Jenny. She would just talk endlessly about how proud she is. So Brittany and Crane put together a slideshow, which we're going to share with you here in a minute. And Jenny was very passionate about family, travel, friends, music. Music emoted real reactions from Jenny, from goosebumps to tears. She was very passionate about life, and I think to play this will be we'll note some things from you, maybe some memories, but she did love Celine Dion and Whitney Houston, and you'll hear that throughout the night, the afternoon. And when the first iPods came out, where's Nick? Nick and I were chasing technology long before anybody else thought that was stupid. But the first one I got was about that big, and it had like 5 or 6 songs on it. She flipped it on her hat, and it had Celine Dion and Whitney Houston. And I constantly asked, can I change the songs? I was upside down, downloading all these things from Napster. I got to do something. Anybody remember Napster? I borrowed those from Bill. Thanks, Bill. But she would not let me change the songs. She listened to the same songs for 10 years. She loved it. I loved them. Why would I change them? It's kind of like, it's like the same thing with, she was not materialistic at all. She was all about experiences, all about people, all about having fun and joy, and that was it. I mean, you couldn't buy her anything. So, there you are. She listened to the same songs for 10 years, and we're going to listen to some more of them. But I'm glad we're here to honor Jenny, and thank you for being here. And then we can go ahead and play that.